Story 1. Only if the snakes are not computer-generated imagery or animated, but Samuel L. Jackson is. Just imagine the chaos and hilarity. Oh yes, and the memes. Edit. Thank you very much. I took a break from Reddit for a day and went from 12 karma to 6,800. I really appreciate this thread. It means a lot to me now. Edit. 5 minutes later. Thank you for the gold. I never realized it before. Thank you, kind stranger. Story 2. All the snakes need typical vacation outfits such as Hawaiian shirts and straw hats. Story 3. Only if there was a scene where Samuel L. Jackson bites a snake's cloaca off. Story 4. Only if the plane is being flown by Daniel DeVito, who offers the terrified passengers who come up front an egg for their difficult times. Story 5. Depends what is his motivation. You specify that the snakes are innocent after all. Story 6. My very first week in college, my entire freshman dorm went out to see snakes on a plane as a cheap getting-to-know-you activity. As awful as the movie was, it will always have a place in my heart. You can bet I would organize a reunion and make all my old college buddies go see this remake with me. Story 7. Enough is enough. I've had it with these monkey-fighting Samuel L. Jacksons on this Monday to Friday plane. Story 8. Have him randomly yell his most memorable lines from all his movies, and we are set. Story 9. 100% support it, only if each snake is voiced by Will Smith and has his face on it. Story 10. I'm tired of these Samuel Jackson on this motherfucking plane. Story 11. Absolutely. The world needs more movies with leading snakes. Story 12. I have never seen this movie, but I plan to now because I want to see what inspired this. I agree. This sounds hilarious. Story 13. Yes, but only if it is directed by a guy like Taika Waititi. Story 14. I am so tired of all these remakes, but that might be amazing. Story 15. I have questions. 1. Are the snakes in assigned seats? It seems a bit wasteful. Are there different classes, or are they on a cargo plane in boxes? 2. Who is serving the snakes? Other snakes or humans? 3. What is your intention for Samuel L. Jackson? How is he going to move around the plane to pick off the snakes one by one? 4. Where are the snakes going? How did they pay for their tickets? Who gave them credit? 5. What is on the in-flight entertainment? Story 16. I have had it with these Samuel L. Jacksons on this plane. Story 17. I am sick of these Sams on this plane. Story 18. I dislike those kinds of questions, such as, Reddit, do you want a cure for cancer? What is your opinion on a program to end world hunger? Do you think world peace would be a good thing? And, of course, this one where the answer is always yes. These are obviously things that humanity needs. Story 19. No. The idea of this remake is funnier in itself than the actual execution could ever be. To implement it would be to ruin it. Story 20. My answer before reading the whole post was only if Samuel L. Jackson is in it. And that did not change after I finished reading. Story 21. I am getting tired of these Samuel L. Jacksons on this plane. Story 22. This is not a question for AskReddit. This is just posting for karma. Story 23. I would only approve if David Sandberg of Kung Fury wrote and directed it. Story 24. Would the moderators support a ban on these? Would you support? Or, how would you feel posts? They are karma farming. Story 25. No, because it is dumb and does not sound funny or entertaining. If enough other people supported it, I would be okay with a release. Just because I do not like it does not mean others would not. It is all opinion, and while I would not find it entertaining, I do not want to take away other people's entertainment. I just would not see it myself unless someone paid for my ticket and gave me cash as an incentive to go. Story 26. I would not, but only because how do you support that gimmick for a feature-length film? Story 27. If there were hundreds of 5-inch Samuel L. Jacksons all screaming motherfucker while running under the seats that the snakes are sitting on. Story 28. I would absolutely agree Samuel is always entertaining. What would make this film exceptional is if it also had Bruce Willis in it. The snakes are on their way to Ponton's holidays in Bognor Regis. For the last 30 miles of their journey, they will have to take the bus, ending with snakes on a bus. Only the hero snake survives along with Bruce, Samuel, the hero snake's girlfriend, and a nerdy snake sidekick who is good with computers and can drive a bus. Driving a stick shift is not easy for a snake, but he defeats Samuel and Bruce, who are American and cannot do it. The film would also have explosions. It would include some guns and similar action elements. The plane could have guns, torpedoes, and maybe a shark or two as pilot and co-pilot. The cabin crew could be cuttlefish and marmosets. That would be the most awesome film in the entire history of the world. Story 29. Man, you're just waiting for someone to say passengers on a plane. Story 30. Say SSSS again. I dare you. I double dare you. That is a hard yes for me. Story 31. As long as a snake screams, I'm sick of these Samuel L. Jacksons on this plane. I'm sold. Story 32. I am deaf, so I give this idea a 7 out of 10. This idea is funny and could hold its weight if done right, especially if Samuel L. Jackson is the main cast member, next to the snakes, of course. Here are the 3 missing points. There would need to be a few other cast members to keep everything in context and moving. There needs to be some personification of the snakes so we know what is going on among the cast of snakes. Personification or not, there needs to be a lot of work put into the closed captions, as well as audio description services. The movie will not make any sense to deaf or blind moviegoers without that effort. Story 33. I have absolutely no clue about what you were talking about, but snakes are beautiful. Let them have their vacation. Samuel L. Jackson is probably just upset about the fact that the snakes, despite having no limbs, manage to take better vacation photos than he can. Story 34. Yes, but only if it were a shot-for-shot remake from the snake's point of view, and I could watch them side by side. Story 35. How does this kind of content get upvoted? Reddit can be really disappointing sometimes. Story 36. Original poster is karma farming, and I have never uttered these words before, but this post is a waste of internet space. Please have better ideas. I welcome the downvotes I will receive for this. Story 37. Absolutely, because even if the movie is utter nonsense, it would be so outrageous that it would be entertaining. Story 38. Mom, are we going to see Granny? Yes, honey. She misses you already. Snake Jr.'s head was chopped off. No, you motherfucker. Samuel held a sword. Blood splattered all over his face. Story 39. I am so goddamn sick of these Samuel L. Jacksons on this plane. Samuel L. Jackson. Jackson on a plane 2020. Story 40. Too many Samuel Jacksons on this plane. Story 41. I would be fully supportive of that. We need to raise awareness of endangered Samuel L. Jacksons sneaking into places they should not be so they do not get harmed by fight-or-flight snakes. Story 42. I think it would turn out just like the original movie Snakes on a Plane. Everyone ironically pretends to be really excited about it while knowing what a terrible movie it would actually be. It gets hype and flops because most people would not pay money to sit through 2 hours of that film. Story 43. Thank you for making this post. I have no idea why, but when I was younger, I absolutely loved this movie. I have to watch it again and see how bad it probably was. Haha. Story 44. There needs to be a team leader who says, hell no, I am not drinking any tea, fool. Story 45. It would probably end up being used as a racist metaphor or ecological. It could turn into an interesting examination of what it means to be other. But, wait, I am overthinking this. Claymation Samuel L. Jackson all the way. Is this a bad time to admit I have never actually seen snakes on a plane? Story 46. No, because the snakes did not have the intent to kill everyone. Story 47. I am sick of all these people on this plane. Story 48. Snakes on a Plane meets Soul Plane meets Rush. The crossover we deserve. Story 49. I would contribute to a fundraising campaign for this. The original poster must have been intoxicated when they thought of this. Story 50. Only if Pixar does it and Samuel L. Jackson voices every character like Tom Hanks. Story 51. This sounds like something I would see in a future Rick and Morty interdimensional cable episode. Story 52. Are they regular-sized snakes or human-sized snakes? Is Samuel L. Jackson his normal size or average snake size? Story 53. Only if I get to see the movie with only the green screen copy. Story 54. Why does everyone call him Samuel L. Jackson instead of Samuel Jackson? I always say it and I can't figure out why. Story 55. Who would not? And I expect Jackson to be running around on all fours. He should be wild and terrifying. Story 56. Only if a black snake says, I am tired of that Samuel L. Jackson on this plan. Story 57. Of course. Anyone who would not support such a thing is not only a traitor to their country but also an enemy of humanity itself. Story 58. This is the most ridiculous Ask Reddit post I have ever seen. Who would not see that movie? Story 59. That sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit, so I would fully support this. It sounds like it would make a great comedy. Story 60. Run for your lives, my fellow snakes. Story 61. But then it should be called Samuel L. Jackson on a plane. Story 62. Definitely, I would laugh out loud. Samuel L. Jackson on a plane. Story 63. I would absolutely get very high and watch that movie. Story 64. No, because I assume Samuel L. Jackson would have to die at the end. Story 65. Absolutely. Because that would be amazing. Story 66. Yes, I can see it as a claymation style like Wallace and Gromit. Story 67. This sounds like something Matt Stone and Trey Parker would direct, and I would watch it enthusiastically. Story 68. Yes, but only if the proceeds are donated to rehoming reptiles, education, shelters, and similar causes for exotic animals. Story 69. Only if they change the setting and name it Sam on a Tram. Story 70. I am not sure if anyone on Reddit would want to watch this. Story 71. I am almost positive that the hosts on Double Toasted featured this as a segment on one of their shows. Story 72. Will Samuel L. Jackson be biting a female snake on the body? Story 73. Defeats them all one by one like Whacking Day in The Simpsons. Story 74. You could show how important snakes are to an ecosystem and talk about the damage if they are killed without reason. Snakes on the plains. Story 75. The alternative is everything being the same except for not having it, so I do not see why not. Story 76. Username checks out. Who put this Samuel L. Jackson on this plane? Story 77. Only if it is a comedy and Samuel L. Jackson's only line is motherfucker every time he kills a snake. Story 78. I would like it better if there were several Samuel L. Jacksons and a handful of nice snake families, the stories of which we saw at the beginning of the movie and have an emotional connection to. Story 79. What can we do about my Waterworld reboot starring Nicolas Cage? Story 80. Only Samuel L. Jackson says, surprise motherfucker. Story 81. Samuel L. Jackson in a plane, coming to theaters near you this summer. Story 82. Personally, I would like to see a Bollywood remake called Chimps on a Bus, starring Samuel L. Jackson. Story 83. According to box office figures, we did not watch the first one. Story 84. I have had it with these difficult humans on this plane. Story 85. It would easily be better than the first version, so I might be interested. Story 86. Only if, at the end of the movie, Samuel L. Jackson transforms into Ben Mendelsohn. Story 87. Only if Morgan Freeman does the voice acting for the snakes. Story 88. I support it wholeheartedly. This would be the perfect comedy movie. Story 89. 100%. If you are not already properly located, you, sir or madam, must dispatch to Hollywood immediately. You are the hero we need and the hero we deserve. Story 90. This is not a real Ask Reddit post and is not even a funny one. How does this content get so many upvotes? Who are these people? Story 91. I do not think this is appropriate for this subreddit. Ask Reddit is interesting because of the answers that people provide to interesting questions. This seems like a poll question that is not intended to solicit interesting answers. Story 92. No. For the same reason, Sausage Party was a silly trailer with a novel concept but an awful movie. Ideas like this are perfect for 10 to 30-second sketches because the idea is the punchline, but that is all there really is to it. Story 93. Yes, because Samuel L. Jackson is awesome and so are snakes. Although I wish some of the Irwin kids would show up at the end to talk Samuel L. Jackson down from harming snakes by showing him just how beautiful they are. Story 94. Yes, but simply for the great quotes. I'm tired of these Samuel L. Jacksons on this Monday to Friday plane. Story 95. Just came here to say, that is not a remake. It is a spin-off. But hells to the yes. Story 96. It depends on how they animate the snakes. Computer-generated imagery like in The Lion King is not acceptable. However, if they use real snakes and add poorly edited voiceovers for their voices, that is completely fine. Story 97. How much did it cost to buy those upvotes? There is no way 21,000 people upvoted this. Story 98. Yes, sounds like a much better film. Ideally, it would not have Samuel L. Jackson playing himself. It should include at least some of the snakes from Snakes on a Plane and be billed as a sequel, though. Story 99. A part of me wants to approve because I do not mind, but then I imagine if someone just missed out on something they have been working hard for. I would not want that to happen. Story 100. As a person who has no context, yes, that would be pretty funny. Story 101. Only if the snakes are named Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Story 102. No, but I would support a Snakes on a Plane remake where Samuel L. Jackson and all the people on the plane were human-sized snakes flying, and a bunch of snake-sized humans named Drake, played by Drake the Rapper, infested the plane. I'm tired of all these motherfucking humans on this motherfucking plane. It would feature great quotes like, time for you to learn God's plan, and last name ever, first name greatest, like a sprained tail, I ain't nothing to pray with. Clearly, it would be called Drake's on a Plane. Story 103. How did Samuel L. Jackson get on this plane? A snake, probably. Story 104. I would not, as there is no such thing as an innocent snake. Signed off and done. Story 105. I've had it with these people on this plane. Story 106. No, because the joke would get old after about 5 minutes. Story 107. Sounds like it would be a very bad movie, full of awkward dialogue. Story 108. No, that would only serve to defile and cheapen the national treasure that is school library journal. Story 109. I have had it with this Samuel Jackson on this plane. Story 110. Only if it includes the line, I'm tired of these snake hunting people on this snake hauling plane. Story 111. Yes, because that would be hilarious. Get these brothers off my plane. Also, all the snakes are black guys and are very stereotypical. I can already see Kevin Hart being the main character. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. Story 112. No, that is less intelligent than the original. How did this get to the front page? Story 113. I would support this because I am a fan of poetic justice, irony, and opposite day. Story 114. Would you support a remake of Gremlins? But instead of a family buying a gremlin, it's a gremlin family buying a human who gets really big and fat if you feed it after midnight? Would you support a remake of Ghostbusters, but instead of ghosts haunting a city, it's humans appearing in a city of ghosts with human busters, and at the end of the movie, one of the human busters imagines a giant Dan Aykroyd? Basically, let's make a switch that sounds ridiculous and very funny. Story 115. Can you post this on another subreddit? I understand it is funny, but posting it as a question when you are just trying to be funny in the title with no real question is an annoying pattern on this subreddit. Story 116. I would like to purchase a ticket, please, and order the director's cut. Story 117. The real question is, why did I receive an email about this thread? It seems Reddit is continually undermining itself with increasing regularity. Story 118. It would be a sequel, not a remake. I think it would work as an animated movie to give the snake's personality. The main snake should also be voiced by Samuel L. Jackson, so in the end, we have a final showdown between the best of the best. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.